Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to episode 257 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, brought to you by, of course, JFtC.com. Thanks for tuning in for another week. Whether it's our live episode you're catching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, we really appreciate it. All the comments and questions that you can contribute live right to our show, we really appreciate that. And if you missed the live recording, don't worry, because the audio version will be available anywhere you find a podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify or anywhere else. If it doesn't have Jays from the Couch, it's not worth it. Try and find another outlet. All right, we've got a great episode for you this week, and I'm your host, as always, Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. There it is right there. We've got a great episode for you. I'm going to bring in two Jays from the Couch writers, hosts of our YouTube shows. First of all, Karen Sutar's Sunny Side of the Dome, and Steve Feck, host of the On Fact Circle. I'm going to let them kind of have a little bit of a debate. We're going to talk about Blue Jays pitching and whether or not it's as good as it has been, or are they lucky? Who knows? We'll get into some fierce debate. It already got going before we went live, and I can't wait to get to it. So, without further ado, host Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Karen, good evening to you.
Good evening, Shaun.
And the Feckless Wonder, host of the On Fact Circle, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Good evening, Mr. Feck.
Hello, Shaun. Hello, Karen. I brought gifts. Okay. I have a little fortune cookie that I have with my meal tonight, and it says, "Fate loves the fearless." So I think that kind of sets the stage for what we're talking about.
That makes for great television, but I'm sure Feck wrote that on a piece of paper and stuck it in a fortune cookie all on his own. All right, before we get into the lively debate, let's talk for a little bit about winning a series in Tampa Bay. Even though the series ended up to be a pain in the butt. See what I did there? Ryu with a glute injury, minor issue, but as somebody who has issues with his rear end, I get it. Poor guy. But it was a great series. So, Karen, I'm going to start with you. Thoughts winning the series in Tampa Bay, which is something we haven't really seen a lot of over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And any Jays fan knows that is one team that has given our team fits, absolutely, particularly on the road at the Trop. I mean, you see that coming up on the schedule, and you just want to kind of go, oh no, do we even watch the games? And I was joking with a friend of mine at work. She said, well, at least we know the games won't get rained out. And I said, and this was prior to Friday's game, and I said, no, but we might wish that they had, just because of the history there. And to think that the Jays took 2 out of 3. I mean, taking 2 out of 3 against any team on the road, never mind a competitive team, never mind a team that has given the Jays fits, and really they had a chance to win that Saturday game. Can you imagine if they would have swept while still waiting for Teoscar Hernandez and George Springer? Like I think this team is just getting warmed up, and that there's better days ahead for them this season.
For sure. Steve, I'm going to throw it to you here. The 2 of 3 in Bay is something I think to celebrate. Not plan the parade worthy yet, but Karen brings up a good point in that the Blue Jays are now performing with a skeleton crew of sorts. And Karen mentioned Teoscar Hernandez and George Springer out, still not back yet. And then, of course, the pitching staff, which we will get into in a bit more detail here. But Steve, your thoughts on how the Blue Jays managed to win 2 of 3, given the state of their healthy roster?
Yeah, well, I think every team they're playing at this point has health issues. I mean, the Rays don't have Austin Meadows. They don't have Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, they played at times, but they've been hurt. Okay, Kiermaier's hurt. He played, but he's hurt. Okay, so their pitching staff isn't as they actually imagined it. But injuries, you can't say, oh, injuries are this or injuries are that. The Blue Jays took 2 of 3, like they have to. The fact that the Rays are a division rival, that's even better. So you almost wish they were playing a 60-game schedule again, because it was only against AL East teams and NL East teams, and they're doing great against AL East teams. It just, so I mean, really, it's a very positive weekend. To win a 1-0 game is awesome, and to win it basically on a bunt. Basically, Gurriel's bunt won that game.
Well, I like to think Espinal's little single there was the difference, but
they both contributed.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
But again, you don't see anybody that practice laying bunts down that beautifully in the game anymore, and that really just, I think when you do that, it changes the way the defenders, even if they're still going into a shift, it changes their footwork and where they're positioning themselves a little bit. And I think that just has rippling effects down to things. So good on the Jays for this weekend. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting it, but good on the Jays.
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime Toronto goes into Tampa Bay, I don't expect much. But I mean, 2 of 3, I'll take it. Before we move into the pitching, I need to talk about Santiago Espinal coming in. Playing third base really is probably going to be sent packing again, even though I don't think he should be, because then you're left with, again, Kevin Biggio playing third. And, I think I've talked enough about my thoughts on that idea. But Espinal came in, kind of calmed down that defense on the hot corner, and he's perfectly capable of contributing with the bat, more so than Joe Panic. So, Karen, what if it's up to you? What do they do with Espinal? Because, as I said, I'm pretty sure he's going to be yo-yoing all year.
Yeah, he probably, I mean, it seems like almost every year there's one player with options who's performing well, but there just seems to be a shuttle between, well, under normal circumstances, Toronto and Buffalo. And I mean, I think poor Ryan Tepera was moved back and forth like 15 times one year, or it felt like that anyway. But no, I mean, if it was, I think you're probably right that there's a good chance he gets optioned. I really don't want to see that. I want to see them give this young man a chance. I mean, we've seen that he is a solid defender on the infield. I mean, he's had in a very, very small sample size this year, he has hits. Now, I'm not saying that he is the next Tony Gwynn or anything like that. I'm not prematurely handing him a batting title, but I would really like to see them keep him and play him, give him regular playing time, and see what he can develop into. He could be a solid 270, 280 hitter with a little bit of pop, and just someone that does the little things right. I looked at the lineup prior to yesterday's game, and I looked at the defensive alignment, and I really liked it. Honestly, and let's face it, the defense really helped them win yesterday. It was pitching, defense, and just enough timely hitting to squeak across one run. And that's all they needed. But I think, as much as I love Bo Bichette, as much as I love Kevin Biggio, if they were playing shortstop and third base yesterday, I don't think the Jays win that game. And I think they really have to start prioritizing putting their best defense on the field if they're serious about contending. And I want to see Espinal.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And even just there felt like it was a big difference when he was playing third base. It more confident, smoother, and calmer watching him play. So, Steve, the next question then becomes, and I saved this for you on purpose because I know you're a fan of having the veteran like Joe Panic on the bench. I need you, Steve, to convince me why Joe Panic deserves to stay over Espinal, because I think it may, in my mind, it kind of comes down to that. They may play some funny business with pitching arms and whatnot, but why Panic over Espinal?
Well, it's not Panic over Espinal or Espinal over Panic. It's Espinal over Rowdy Tellez, who once Teoscar Hernandez comes back and Springer's back has 0. In fact, 00. James Bond 00 value to this lineup. He's a brutal defensive first baseman. Just brutal. Vladdy Guerrero could sit down on first base and still be a better defender at first than Rowdy Tellez is.
Well, don't tell him that.
Oh, God.
well, maybe he would stretch better if he was sitting down. I don't know. Maybe he's got more flexibility left to right if he's sitting down on the base. But, Rowdy Tellez has got to go. He's got to go. He has options. So all you Blue Jays fans are all warm and fuzzy about Rowdy. Oh, Rowdy, what a great story. You can have your great story. You can be playing in Trent, okay? Keeps Espinal, on the line. Even if he's a late inning defender, if Biggio's going to start the games at third, because now you're going to have to really get creative moving guys around. I guess the DH spot, again, Tellez clogs up a DH spot. And theoretically, if you're going to use him, where are you going to play him? At DH? You're going to need to move Bichette and Simeon and Biggio and Grichuk and all of these other pieces into the DH slot. So Rowdy, we hardly knew you. I don't want to get to know you any better.
You know what? That's a fair point. When you have George Springer and Teoscar Hernandez in the lineup, and Espinal and Biggio and Simeon and all of these, there really is no need for a strictly first base DH kind of guy other than having a left-handed bat. But that left-handed bat has to be consistent. And so, you know what, Steve, you may have convinced me on this Rowdy Tellez because I didn't even see it coming.
I'm pretty sure Joe Panic is out hitting Rowdy Tellez this year too. I mean, again, I've been kind of out of the loop a little bit this weekend, but I think Panic came into the weekend hitting like 278, 275, something like that. I don't think if you combined his OPS and his average that Rowdy Tellez is there.
So that's an interesting idea, and I think, if I'm the Blue Jays management, I'm seriously considering that. Especially when
you're not, because the Blue Jays management would never think that clearly. Okay, well, I mean, they have to see what the computer says or what their Ouija board message comes up. What? Is it RS? Is it Rowdy or Santiago? I don't know. I got to see. No, it's everything I just said is really pointless because Ross Atkins is going to do whatever the hell it is that Ross Atkins does when he constructs this roster. Consulting, whether it's consulting Satan or the Ouija board or his computer, whatever he's consulting, he's not going to listen to logic like Rowdy Tellez needs to go, and you keep those flexible infield bats. Joe Panic's left-handed bat. If Biggio's on the bench, he's a left-handed bat.
So I'm going to hold you to this. Once everybody comes back, and if the move is Rowdy Tellez, then you, sir, are going to have to come back on the show and give Ross Atkins an apology.
Wearing a Blue Jays hat.
And Matt is picking up on your saltiness this evening. Matt, watching on YouTube. Thanks a lot, Matt. And you ain't wrong, buddy.
All I can say is I showed the cardiologist the Blue Jays stats and some of their lineups. And he realizes it's not a physical thing. It's the stress of having to watch this day in, day out, and have gone through the whole off season with all this Ross Atkins, whatever the hell he's doing. That's why I have cardiological issues. It has nothing to do with my health. It has everything, or being fat. It has everything to do with Ross Atkins. So I will never apologize to Ross Atkins unless he actually resigns and admits that he's not up for the job. Then I'll apologize.
Okay. So even if Rowdy Tellez gets sent down, You still, and Ross Atkins does what you suggested. You still will not apologize
To Ross Atkins?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
All right, fair enough. You're nothing if you're not sticking to your convictions, right?
I will praise Charlie Montoyo because he would have grown a pair of huevos to go up to Ross and say, I think that we need to keep Santiago and we need to ship out Rowdy. I will praise Charlie Montoya, and I will take down my Casey Candell 2022 sign off of my wall. Okay.
Well,
if Tellez goes down.
That's progress. Karen.
I mean, I praised Charlie Montoyo prior to Sunday's game and after Sunday's game because he saw that defensive changes were necessary. He's seen this team and he's seen one of their biggest weaknesses, and he took steps to make it better, at least for one game, and it worked for one game. So I hope he's not going to do an about face, but that took some guts. I mean, taking the glove out of Bichette's hand for a game and saying, okay, you can DH, and it worked.
And maybe sending Rowdy Tellez down will work as well. But it's now time to move on. I've been kind of just I'm waiting because we are now going to enter into a debate over the state of the Blue Jays pitching staff. And I'm not quite sure where to really start. So let's just I'll tee this up a little bit here, right? The Blue Jays kind of flirting around 500 now. I believe they're a game under at 10 and 11. Pitching staff has seen an awful lot of injuries, like other teams in baseball. You know, it seems like a lot, but other teams are going through the same thing in their own right. And then Hyunjin Ryu, we all hold our breath because he's leaving the game. And yet somehow this pitching staff is near the top or at the top of the league in earned run average. Not that earned run average is the be all and end all. However, it's a solid place to be. So, is that dumb luck? Is that planning on the part of the front office to cover depth? And I'm saying that just to get Steve going already before I even let him talk. So, Karen, I am going to start with you. What is it? What are you seeing with this Blue Jays pitching staff? And the real question is it for real? Is it something that is going to get them into the playoffs?
Right. Yeah, honestly, I like the Jays pitching staff. I think even before, sorry, excuse my cat. My cat Val would make a cameo. This was happen one of these days. Anyway, yeah. But back to our regularly scheduled program. Even in the off season, I wrote that the Blue Jays, that the rotation could be better than people expect. And a lot of the reason for that was they built, in my opinion, quality depth. I mean, with all these starters that had previously had some success that were looking for bounce back seasons, and so far, knock on wood, I think we've gotten that from Steven Matz and Robbie Ray. I think they've both been very good. And then the young guys that could step up and take a solid place in the rotation. I mean, unfortunately, Hatch is injured. Merriweather, when he was healthy, he was part of the bullpen. But, I mean, Nate Pearson's working his way back. I think Trent Thornton has pitched very well. So whether they slide him into a rotation spot at some point, I don't know if they're trying to be cautious because he had surgery last year. I don't know what's going on. But I really like what this front office has done. I mean, picking up guys off of waivers like Payamps and Anthony Castro, and they seem to really have a knack. I mean, people talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, and how they can spot talent that some organizations can't seem to do so. I think you have to give the Blue Jays credit. I mean, here are these guys that other teams are DFAing, and they come in and give you quality innings and help you win games. So I like it. I'm happy about it. And if anything, I see it getting that much better going forward, because you look at the guys that really haven't done so well, such as a TJ Zoik, and I don't know how long he'll be on the injured list, but whenever he comes back, if he doesn't start pitching any better, he's going to be replaced. They're going to hang on to the guys that are getting the job done. So I feel good about it.
And fair enough. And they did us a favor by taking Tanner Rourke out of the rotation. So, they're thinking along. They're seeing what's playing out in front of them. So, Steve, where are you? Just generally speaking, overall, where are you on this pitching staff as far as everything Karen just said?
Okay. The pitching staff has pitched well through the first 21 games. Yes, they have. Have they pitched probably above expectation? I think in some cases they have, especially given the fact that so many of the young arms are having to pitch in roles that they just have not been trained to pitch in, or that they're accustomed to. Nobody expected, one injury after the other in the bullpen. Guys have come in. Dolis, when he actually decides to throw a pitch, has been effective. He's been in the strike zone for the most part. He has stepped up. Phelps has pitched well. As a whole, the pitching staff has done well. The starting rotation, at least the three starters, that they've been able to roll out, have been reliable. They've actually gone deep into games, which is something. But, Karen talked about Trent Thornton. He's pitched well. Yes, he has. How long are we going to have to hear, well, we need to stretch him out? What, are you going to let him pitch 27 pitches next time? And then maybe 29? Okay. He's been a starting pitcher in the major leagues. Okay. Lots of pitchers have come off of injuries and are taking regular turns and rotations across baseball. Let Trent Thornton do it. If he runs into trouble, then you pull. Don't have some prescribed thing saying, oh, we have to baby him and we want to set up all this piggybacking and all that other stuff that's going on. It's a recipe for disaster in the aggregate down the road. This bullpen is going to get tired. It's a different thing throwing a bunch of innings as a starter, but then being asked to throw a bunch of innings, even though you were a starting pitcher before, but now pitching in short bursts and on a more regular basis. That's going to catch up with the pitching staff. So that's where I say this staff right now is not a playoff staff. It's pitching well as of right now. But even pitching well right now, they're still 10 and 11. There's going to be it's just been injuries, and every team's had it. But this is not a playoff pitching staff. This is going to eventually start catching up. So, yes, I want to say great job. Pete Walker, okay, if I was higher up in the Episcopal Church, I'm not yet ordained, I would put him up for sainthood, because what he has done with the staff is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So the question then becomes, when you look at who they have relied on, right? Like Robbie Ray walks like 6 guys and still keeps them off the board. That's not sustainable. Steve Matz pitching like Cy Young. That sustainable? I would love it if it were. Is it likely? Probably not. And Matt, watching again, says that he can see some regression coming for Ray and Matt, and that's kind of the point of what I'm getting at here is, for how long can they rely on guys pitching better than we may have thought? And you go with a Trent Thornton, notoriously, at least in my mind anyway, whether it's actually notorious or not, but can't go through an order 2 and 3 times. We saw that when he was the starter, when he was stretched out. So unless there's some kind of Pete Walker is some kind of magical answer or fix for that, I don't see how that's going to change. I worry about injuries, and I think the moment was when Ryu walked off the mound. If he's gone, then you're relying on Steve Matz, Robbie Ray to carry this rotation, and Karen, that makes me nervous.
I don't know. I mean, me and my tendency to look at it in a positive way. I look at what they've done this year, and even going back to spring training. And again, these are guys that this isn't, Edwin Jackson or whatever that we're trying to remake into Cy Young. I mean, these are guys that have had success in the past. And I mean, to me, what they're doing is they've rediscovered that form that they had in the past, and I think they're pitching to their potential. And you talk about, Robbie Ray walking 6 and still getting through 5 scoreless innings. I agree that that's not sustainable. So you know what? His last outing, he didn't walk anybody. He had 9 strikeouts and 0 walks. So I love it. I mean, he's doing what he should be doing. If he has a bad game as far as too many base on balls, that he works it out the next game. And Trent Thornton, I mean, let's not forget, he was a rookie in 2019. So, there's still a learning curve, and he was kind of Jekyll and Hyde. About half of his starts, he was pretty good, and the other half, he really wasn't good at all. And then I think he kind of turned a corner in his last 10 or so starts of the season. He was pretty consistently good. He got some advice of some sort from Clay Buchholz, and yeah, like I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to give Anthony Kay a chance. Anthony Kay, to me, he's got talent, and he's had some bad luck in his days as a Blue Jay. I mean, difference between ERA and FIP, and yeah, like I want to see these guys get a chance.
And that's fair. I like giving them this chance. I guess when I look at the pitching staff and where the expectations are for this team, I worry about the giving too many guys a chance when you're actually trying to win games, as opposed to a year like last year or the year before, where it's okay to let them kind of grow into a role. But let's say that Karen is right, Steve, and that these guys, they're good enough. They're learning how to be major league starters and all of that. They're living hopefully up to the potential that they have. My question to you, Steve, is let's say, how do I say this? Let's say Karen's right. The trade deadline comes around, right? Let's say this pitching staff as is enough to get them to July. What do they do? Now, and Steve, I know you're going to say Ross Atkins won't do anything, but let's pretend, play the game. What do they go for this pitching? And right now they're 10-11. Let's say it's an 80-81 or 50-51 situation like we saw in Alex Anthopoulos in 2015. What do they do? Do they continue giving guys chance and riding the rotation the way they have, or do you see them like, is the need for pitching that great?
The need for pitching is that great, and it has to happen now, not tonight, now, within the next 30, 45 days, because there are so many teams that nobody really anticipated to be in it that are also going to be looking for pitching. You need to go for the jugular now. You've got the Yankees in the basement. You're only a half game behind the Rays, and the Red Sox, top of the division, outplaying most people's expectations. But they're going to get Chris Sale back. Okay, so you can do this all you want, or you can go this if you want to be a lefty. Okay, Chris Sale is coming back. All right, so the Red Sox are going to automatically get better. The Blue Jays, and I can probably think of 3 teams that could, from a payroll standpoint and from a prospect capital standpoint, go out, strike early, and bring in a frontline pitcher. And we're going to be looking at one of the two pitchers they could get when they play the Nationals tomorrow, and that's Max Scherzer. Okay. They also have Patrick Corbin on the block. There, German Marquez in Colorado, the talk gets louder and louder and louder that the Rockies are going to move him. And controllable guys other than Scherzer. The Blue Jays have a deep enough, people can talk about depth, they have a deep enough farm system that they can go to the Nationals and overpay for 3/4 to 2/3 of a season for Max Scherzer, maybe get back a prospect like Carter Kieboom, who they've gotten down, who can play third base. Defensively, he can do it. He struggles with the bat, but he can defensively play third baseman, another prospect in the thing. So you can move a Groshans, or you can move any number of your top prospects to Washington, because Washington's getting to the point that they keep looking up and seeing what's happening above them. Even the Marlins are pulling away this early. The Nationals are ripe for the plucking. Mike Rizzo in Washington is an aggressive, smart GM. If he gets the right package of players, then by all means, the Blue Jays can strike now and get the pitching they need now. If you wait to the deadline, there are not enough starts that are going to come in. They're going to put you over the top, given the shortcomings that the staff has now as they wear down. They need to strike now, right now, and make those moves for a big-time pitcher. And the pitchers are out there. It's a matter of Atkins having the guts to actually part with some of his prospects. You know, I know they're like babies. Everybody's, you know, I have a daughter. I have a dog. I love them. I want to keep them close. But, at some point, you got to let them go. You have to let them live their own life. I have to let my dog go chase squirrels. I have to let my daughter assert herself and do whatever she wants to do for a living. I cannot always protect that and control that. It's time to take it. They will never have an opportunity like this in the next 7 to 10 years. They need to exploit it now. I've been saying this since last offseason. Ross will still not listening to me. He'll wait to the deadline. He'll be outmaneuvered by all these other much smarter, more experienced general managers than he is that aren't afraid to move prospects. Alex Anthopoulos. Okay? And we're going to end up short, and we're going to be saying, oh, what if? We're going to be blaming it on injuries or blaming it on, well, we gave our young guys time, rather than being aggressive, taking the steps a winning front office needs to take to make sure your team can win. The Red Sox are probably not sustainable. The Rays, you can put them down. The Yankees, call in the vet. It might be time to put them down in a couple of weeks if they don't start pitching better and turning things around. Go and strike now.
That's fair. All right, Karen, I'm going to give you the last word, your last word, as Steve just traded his dog and his daughter for Max Scherzer.
Let's not do that.
I will trade anything for Max Scherzer.
Now let's not go overboard. I think more of a general comment, as we all know, Steve and I can sometimes be on the opposite sides of the fence in terms of the outlook. So not even so much directed at you, but just a general comment that if we have a glass of lemonade in front of us, I don't want to be looking at that and trying to find a way to turn it back into a lemon. Look at this pitching staff. They are number one in the American League in earned run average. The bullpen is number one in the majors in earned run average. Now, I'm not saying that, no, we absolutely shouldn't go out and try to get reinforcements if we can, because right now we've got 3/5 of a rotation. We need 1 to 2 more starting pitchers, and that could come internally. But if we've got a reasonable chance without giving away the entire farm without it costing costing Manoah and Groshans and who knows what for Max Scherzer, who's going to be a free agent in a year. Like, if they can pull off a reasonable deal for them, then I'm not going to say no to that. I think that would be a great thing. But let's not borrow trouble. Let's not assume that what we've already got and what they've already built is automatically going to go downhill. Myself, I'm appreciating what they're doing right now. And I'd like to add to it without assuming that it's all going to fall apart.
Well, I'm
Fair
sorry,
enough.
The glass of lemonade is not made from fresh squeezed lemons. We're using like some kind of generic bargain powder mix to put all these things together. Okay, we need to actually at least get to buy lemons to squeeze so we can have real lemonade. If we're going to use that as an example, we disagree as far as the outlook, big picture. We agree that what's going on now and picking up a Max Scherzer or Herman Marquez or Patrick Corbin, who's controllable for 2 years, as is Marquez, that and if you're giving away prospect capital and you're getting deep into the playoffs, it's a win. You're winning. What did Herman would say? You got to win the game. That is the thing. You want to win. Okay, there's no more time for like, well, we can do this and we have this plan. I don't care if Ross Atkins is signed for 5 years. I want to see what you're going to do here in 2021, and you have an opportunity you will not get over the course of your next 5 years if you sit back and do nothing. Our bullpen, with that great ERA and the great performance, is going to be a great bullpen potentially if they're pitching less innings over the course of the year. And they can still be a great support if you have Max Scherzer or Herman Marquez or Patrick Corbin or Anthony DeSclafani or Johnny Cueto, or whoever you want to think of that's out there on the trading block. If you add them into the rotation, you're making the bullpen better in the aggregate over the course of a season.
Fair enough. Karen.
If you want to save your bullpen, do something with that defense. I mean, Steven Matz the other day, he left. He was pulled early because his pitch count was elevated because the defense kept bobbling the ball all over the place around him. Like you want to save the pitching staff. That is one good way to help do it. Tighten up that defense. Play like you did on Sunday. Play the guys you did on Sunday.
There you go.
That's
all right.
Baseball.
So that brings us to the end of the episode. We could debate even longer. We won't do that, of course, but it is an interesting conversation. It is an interesting conversation, though, because I mean, whether the current performance is sustainable or not, I think we all can agree that at some point there's help needed. Whether it's down the road in July, whether it's next winter, or as Steve said, whether it's in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be and Karen has said this a number of times, they're not a finished product. And I don't know that they're even a finished product for this season, let alone, 2 years down the road or whenever they win a championship. So I'm sure at some point we will continue this fascinating conversation. But unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week and leaving your comments and questions on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, on Twitter. Karen, let everybody know how they can follow you and all that stuff.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at Karen Sutar1. That's SOUTIR1, just like it says there. And I'm on Twitter quite a bit. So if you want to chat, being mutually respectful and all, so baseball or any other topic within reason, you can find me pretty easily. And you can find Karen on our YouTube channel every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. for the sunny side of the dome. More of Karen's positivity and logic every week. So tune in there. As well, Mr. Feck, let everybody know how they can follow you.
You can follow me, at least for now, at US of J's on Twitter. My guess is you're going to have to probably send any correspondence to Western Psychiatric Hospital if we keep having discussions like this. But there's also the usofjays.net website. And I've been doing a daily video diary of the 2021 Blue Jays season. stuff that I'm not allowed to say here for good reason is what I generally say there. So that's on the at USFJ's Facebook page. Please follow me both places. I want to have conversations. That's the thing I encourage. So please, even if you're going to yell at me, just spell the words right. That's all I ask.
And you can also tune into Steve's show Tuesdays at 6 p.m., the On Fact Circle on our YouTube channel as well. So for Karen, for Steve, for poor Ross Atkins, this is Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at DoyleJFtC. Hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care.